surprising that during our recent road trip around the UK, much of the chat with manufacturers centred around the impact to their business from Britain leaving the EU in 2020. Are there any silver linings to be found amid the increased paperwork, higher prices and supply delays?
Let's be quite honest, it's just a massive pain. Even if you want to, say, loan a product to someone in Europe, there's no money changing hands. You know, the fact that they pay €300 worth of import duty. Personally, it's been really frustrating for me and very foreseeable that it's just simply not going to be good for business.
One of the worst things I've ever seen this country do to itself. It's really, really, really upsetting. The amount of extra grief and difficulty with doing the simplest thing in terms of shipping or posting anything to Europe has just become ridiculous.
Take Amsterdam, which is probably closer to where we're sitting than many places in Scotland. Whether it was doing a trade show or shipping goods to Amsterdam was exactly the same as doing a trade show or shipping goods to Amersham. And now suddenly there's all sorts of regulations, there's lots of paperwork to be done. Again, this isn't a statement about the COVID-19 pandemic. This is purely a regulatory consequence of Brexit.
There was a whole raft of challenges to do with Brexit. We were well experienced in exporting, so the process wasn't alien to us. But it was more the process of Europe being able to deal with it and the couriers being on top of how the processes work, and there were certainly a great many differences there that caused challenges.
The couriers have not adapted well. The extra customs procedures in place have nobody was prepared for it. I mean, it's not surprising when they found out on the 24th of December. In terms of actual trade, it's not a huge problem. It's causing delays. It's causing lots of delays. I mean, it's just another thing on top of everything else, really, at the moment.
The time where Brexit became a reality was simultaneous almost with the time that the COVID pandemic became an impact on everything. And certainly the challenges that we faced as a manufacturer are much more related to the impact of a pandemic than they are necessarily with the impact of Brexit.
Initially, it started to work okay. Then we started to see issues creep in related to local customs officers that were processing paperwork. So we started getting paperwork refused that had been accepted the week before. Now we have a situation where local UK delivery companies working on behalf of international shipping companies who 2 or 3 weeks after delivery are now delivering £50 invoices. So you have a customer ringing you and saying, well, why have I got a bill for 50 quid? And it's only 50 quid, you might say, but that shouldn't be occurring. That's not how a seamless distribution chain should work.
We sent one parcel on January the 4th and it didn't arrive in January. And this is for a 2-day service. It's just made everything a little bit more expensive for everybody. And I don't think people realised quite what Brexit was going to do.
The key to getting through it, and I say getting through it because the teething problems that everybody experienced at the beginning were the worst of it now. Now it's settled and we know our new way of working, we know what information we have to share in terms of country of origin and all the background shipping documentation that we have to have in place. We've got that nailed now. So the key to it is the planning now. We have to be a lot tighter on our plan, a lot tighter with our communication with the suppliers and our forecasting, because lead times have just gone up, because it just takes longer to get everything through Europe at the moment. It is testing, I think, our systems and our processes and our relationships. And so far, we're getting through the other side.
Overall, Brexit has created some new difficulties, but they've not been insurmountable ones, is probably the best way to describe it. So whilst it has impacted both us and our customers, particularly obviously the customers that are within the sort of central continental Europe area, the primary impact for them has been the delivery times more than anything else. Realistically, shipments to places like France, Spain or Germany have increased from where they might have been 4, 5, maybe 6 days previously. They're realistically anything up to 2.5 weeks now in order to get them to the customer.
The biggest impact I would say that Brexit has had is on supply chains. And that has been exacerbated with, unfortunately, the pandemic that we've experienced in the last 18 months. Prices have increased, there's been a strain on supply, you're having to think much, much further in advance. And that is probably the biggest headache for us out of everything.
It's the perfect storm of everything, whether that's Brexit, COVID, bit of everything, ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal, all of that stuff, you put it all together, any one of those things would have probably been bad enough, but you put all three together and it has certainly brought its challenges.
The combination of Brexit and COVID has been quite a challenge to our industry generally. Boris Johnson told us there's no tariffs between goods between the UK and Europe. Whoopee, that's fantastic, isn't it? He didn't tell us that all the documentation was going to change, all the documentation was going to take more time and more money. So obviously there's a knock-on effect from that. Things were slower, people had to wait longer for their goods. If you're importing goods, same thing. I'm sure eventually that'll settle down as we go on and it shakes out and you know what to put on the documentation, but we've still got a hard border and it's still restrictive, and I still wish that we were part of Europe.